Hello and welcome to Provoking Tech. I'm Zach, and in today's video I'm going to be discussing creating the ultimate portable PC gaming experience. It's going to involve this device right here, and the whole idea is heavily inspired by the Switch, but actually creating something that's even more powerful and more useful in your daily life than the capabilities of the Switch, with a lot more extra added functionality, but without, of course, the Nintendo exclusives, which is a big downfall, but it is certainly a very cool project. So without further delay, let's go ahead and get right to it. Alright, so to kick off this video, I wanted to talk about the different components that actually make up the setup. The first of which is the Windows tablet. So this is the Asus Transformer Mini. It's a Windows-based 10-inch tablet. It's very heavily inspired by the Microsoft Surface Pro. You can see it has a hinge very similar to the Microsoft Surface Pro. The hinge actually folds out to about 20 degrees, which is good if you want to do a lot of handwritten notes, or if you turn the pen the right way, the stylus the right way, do a lot of handwritten notes, or do some quick sketches. I don't think the pen has as many levels of pressure sensitivity as the Surface Pen, so keep that in mind if you want to do a lot of drawing. I would research that a little heavier. I'll probably do a video possibly on this in the future, but that's not the focus of today's video. Of course, this tablet does have the detachable keyboard, very similar to the Microsoft Surface Pro, that connects via magnets. It has little pins that actually sends the data to the tablet for your keyboard. So it's a very similar design of the Surface, but on the spec side, it is a much lower end. It runs on the Intel quad-core Atom processor, so it's not near as powerful as the i5s and the i7s inside of the Surface Pro, but it is surprisingly powerful, and it runs Parsec great. And moving on to Parsec. Parsec is the streaming app that you can stream either from cloud servers, so that's something running on like Amazon's AWS, or my personal favorite is Paperspace. Paperspace is a competitor to Amazon. They have data centers both in the US, and they just recently opened one in Europe. They have very, very reasonably priced cloud gaming servers, or just cloud servers in general. You can use them for workplaces too, if you do 3D CAD or anything really, that you could use a more performance oriented computer. Very good service from Paperspace, so I'm happy with that. So Paperspace is kind of supplying the hardware. I'm playing on the Paperspace P5000 hardware tier. Very good performance in Tomb Raider, and of course Parsec is actually streaming, and Parsec is a great app. I've done a lot of videos on it with cloud gaming. I'm going to be doing a lot more in the near future. And of course the last thing is the controller. I'll link this in the description below too. It's actually telescopic, so you can fit anything from like a phone. This is as small as it'll go, to a 10-inch tablet. This is a 10-inch tablet, and it fits it very well. You could probably squeeze a little bit more, but not much more, because this is as far as it'll telescope. You can lock the telescopic portion of it, so let's lock that. And then it also has springs over here on the left-hand side that is what actually provides the tension. So you want to have, when you lock it in telescopic mode, you want it small enough where it actually won't fit on your device, and then you pull out the spring, which is going to provide the tension to actually hold your device. This will actually provide enough tension that I'm not afraid to, let's extend it as far as it'll go with a telescopic, and then throw it on my device. I'm going to go ahead and lock it. So I always lock it when I put it on, so I don't hit random buttons or anything, but it'll actually get tight enough on my device with the spring that I'm not afraid to swing my little tablet around with one hand, simply because it holds it nice and tight. It won't wobble at all. So it's a very cool little controller, and that's why I wanted to do this video. I saw it on Amazon. I'm like, this could be very similar to what the Switch experience is. So very cool rundown of the different hardware pieces. If you have more questions, don't hesitate to ask those in the comments below. If you want me to dig deeper into any of these different hardware components, such as the tablet itself or anything like that, just let me know in the comments below, and I'll look into that in the future. All right, so now that we've talked about the setup in depth, it's now time to actually demonstrate it in action. So the cool thing about Parsec is that it will actually allow multiple client computers to connect to the same host. There's a lot of different use cases for this, But today I'm using this to connect both from my Windows tablet to actually play the game, but I'm also connecting from my Windows desktop that is running OBS to actually capture the gameplay. So I'm using both setups at the same time and connecting to the exact same computer with two different computers. One so I can actually capture the gameplay and show that in the video, but also another so I can play from this setup and actually demonstrate it in action. So without further delay, let's go ahead and show this baby in action. Alright, so I'm going to start the game off by playing with the telescopic mode engaged and actually playing with the screen right directly in front of me. I've already actually played a little bit of Tomb Raider. I just wanted to make sure that this setup was fully viable before I did a video on it, of course, because with all my projects I actually pretty much test everything pretty thoroughly before I make a video on it. That doesn't mean I'm good at Tomb Raider by any stretch of the imagination, but it's a pretty playable experience. A couple things while we're in a cutscene real quick is this controller joystick, well, the joysticks in general do seem to have a decent sized dead zone, meaning that you can move them a decent amount before they'll actually engage anything. So it does make fine control over the camera. The movement one doesn't seem to do it as bad. Maybe it's just the way the Tomb Raider does with joystick controllers, but the camera itself doesn't really move much if you just do very minute changes. You have to move it more aggressively. I don't notice it really when I'm doing the movement with the left joystick, so it could either be this controller or it could just be Tomb Raider. I haven't played Tomb Raider enough to have really any experience either way. The 10-inch screen is awesome, especially even for a portable experience. On a plane, you can definitely do this. You'd want to use headphones. And the cool thing, let me get this around here, is with this setup, it doesn't actually block, let's see if I can show that. It doesn't actually block any of the input. So I could actually be plugging this into my power pack if I was on a plane or something, and charging it while I'm playing on my device, which this device, since it only runs an Intel quad-core Atom processor, it does last for a long time. It lasts about 10 hours. When you're doing something like this, it'll probably only last about 6 hours or so because you're a little bit more intensive with the graphics, but it still lasts quite a bit of time. I could actually connect this to a display, so I could have my display essentially mirrored, so someone else could watch while I was playing if I wanted to. And of course, I have my headphone jack up here, so I could actually be listening to this with headphones, so I wasn't disturbing the person next to me. So that's a cool aspect of this in setup in general. Let's see where I'm supposed to be going, and I'll keep on playing for a little while and discussing a couple things. Oh, the door just magically opened. But say eventually you get tired of holding like this, and you wanted to play it more like a Switch where you can disconnect the sides and you have that little middle insert to make it more like a standard joystick. You can do the same thing here. So one thing is you can disengage the lock right here, which locks, let's get that over a little. This locks the telescoping part. You can disengage that, which will let it telescope a little farther, which I don't need to do that right now because I had it fully telescoped. But then all you got to do is pull, and it'll pull against the spring. So you can see there's springs inside of here. I don't know if you can actually see the springs. I don't think you can ever actually see them, but you can hear the springs kind of providing the tension, and it'll suck it back in. So I've already disengaged the telescopic lock, so I can push that back in, lock that back, and now it's bigger than an Xbox controller for sure because it's designed to be able to fit phones inside of here up to tablets. That's why it telescopes. But I can now, and I'm playing with a short USB cable right now, so it's a little harder to demonstrate this. But if I was connected over Bluetooth, if I actually had charged this prior to wanting to do a video and testing it out, I could have connected with Bluetooth, and this would have been a little bit easier as I wouldn't have had a cable here, which doesn't really bug me when it's in that mode, but now I have a shorter cable, which kind of impedes my ability to move my joystick as much as I would like. But now I can play this more like with an Xbox controller. So I don't have to hold the whole weight of the screen too, which isn't a crazy amount of weight, but it is enough that it gets noticeable. This joystick itself doesn't have rumble features, so it's a very lightweight joystick. So I'm just going to play with this for a little while and get some good footage here. Let's just set the torch on a wooden table. That can't go wrong, can it?
Represents a hateful woman in the guise of a demon. This traditional no mask
So just from my little bit of time playing this, I think Laura Croft has too much of a love of fire. Just a little bit of a fire bug. She likes catching things on fire. Oh, there's a lot in there. Thank gosh for LB. Alright, so this project was heavily inspired by the Nintendo Switch. I thought that the ideal was very cool, but I enjoy PC gaming. I have a huge PC gaming library, so I wanted to have a very similar experience. And I think this gets very close to that. There are a couple things about the controller that I don't prefer compared to an Xbox controller, but it was a very good experience nonetheless. A couple of functionality pieces that I think it actually improves upon the Switch. I just like how the more traditional controller fits in my hand better than the Switch controllers fit in my hand. And of course, on the screen itself, since it's inspired by the Microsoft Surface, this is a much better kickstand than on the Nintendo Switch. If you try playing with the little kickstand that the Nintendo Switch has, me and my friend were trying to play in an airport, and all we had was our luggage to set it on. It wasn't a super stable surface, of course, with wheels and not a completely flat surface. And a couple times it wanted to tip over if we accidentally, nudged the luggage with our pack. With this, you'd have a very flat and a very, it has a wide base now when you fold this out. So, and since it has support all the way along here, it'd be able to, take a little bumps and stuff without wanting to tip as bad. And of course, you can adjust the angle very fine control, whether you wanted it more acute or if you wanted to have it very obtuse and laying back far, depending on how you're setting and what you're leaning against or whatever like that. So it does have a couple cool improvements upon the Nintendo Switch, but both are still separate products, and I don't think Nintendo in the foreseeable future is going to put Zelda on Windows, so I won't really have the full experience. Definitely would love to play Breath of the Wild on Windows, but I just don't foresee Nintendo doing that in the foreseeable future. So if you like this video, guys, give it a big like. I greatly appreciate that. Also, if you're not already an existing subscriber, smash that subscribe button to stay tuned for more great videos from Thought Provoking Tech. Until next time, Zach out.